All right, Mike, for the interview this week, here's the deal. There's been a lot of important people that come through the UCF football program, but I'm not sure if anyone's been as important as this guy. Not only was he part of some of the biggest seasons, but I think he's one of those guys who was really big on the culture of UCF football and making sure that we continue to do things the right way. He excelled both on the field, Mike, and off the field. And he's somebody whose name I know we're all going to be looking for come mid-May when the NFL draft time comes around. Happy to have long snapper Alex Ward join us on the show this evening. Alex, first off, man, thank you so much for hopping in. Hope all is well. How are you doing?
Doing fantastic.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you taking the time. Obviously, I know you got a lot of stuff going on. So let's start right here in the beginning. I'm really genuinely curious. I saw some interviews doing some research on you, but how did you become a long snapper? How does that fall into your life? I have a kid. He's 10 years old. And I coach the flag football team, and he's in there playing Madden right now, and he created himself for a career. And surprise, surprise, Alex, he did not pick long snapper. How did you decide long snapper was what you wanted to pursue, or how did you kind of fall into that?
Yeah, I mean, I really just fell into it. It was, I was the center all the way, like in Pee Wee. So from flag football to Pee Wee to everything, I was always the center because I was decently tall, decently sized, but not very coordinated. So I was the center. When in the middle school, I was the center, and then in center they also needed a long snapper, and so I tried out for long snapper, and they said, "Yep, you do it. It's your job." So. I just started there, and I've always been the type of guy that if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it 100%. So I tried to get as good at long snapping as I could, like immediately. And looking back, I was horrible. It was really, really bad. But so then about my senior year of high school, I was like, I'm not going to college to play tight end. I'm not going to play D end. Let me, and that's when I found out you could play long snapper in college. So I was like, all right, let's learn how to do this right. Let's, mimic some pro guys. Let's find a coach, the whole nine. And then let's get to college. And I got to college, and that mindset never changed, and just kept working and trying to get as absolutely good as I could.
So did you play any other on-field positions in high school, or were you strictly just snapping by the time you were a senior?
No, I was a tight end D end. Yeah.
Were you good? Did you have any stats, any touchdowns, any sacks? Give me a scouting report on Alex Ward, the tight end.
So I took my junior year of high school off football.
Okay.
I stopped playing for the football team, focused full time, went 100% tennis, big tennis guy. So, drive around the country. I was the best in the area, but drive around the country, got my butt kicked. So I was like, all right, let's stick with this football thing. So I went back to football, and because I missed my junior season, I didn't have any tape, I didn't have any film, I wasn't getting recruited at all. So some stats. I mean, I was I think first, maybe second game, I broke my middle finger on my left hand. And so like I had it buddy taped for the season and like straight splinted, and so I had like these two fingers. I couldn't catch very well. So they brought in my best friend from the line, and we ran a 2 tight end set, and I was the blocking tight end. He was the catching tight end. So, I don't have many stats from tight end.
Well, give me the Alex Ward tennis scouting then. Were you serve and volley? Were you power serve, baseline, ground strokes? Give me the Alex Ward tennis scouting report.
So even back then, I was 6'4", probably pushing 200. I didn't have the motor to sit back there and just rally with guys all day. And so, I was serving volley. I was getting to the net, almost a double specialist, like, this huge popping 120, 125 serve. And then, I would try to, kick it as high as I could and rush the net. And it worked sometimes. When guys started standing at the fence and moonballing my serve back to me, then it was going to be a long match. But if they were actually trying to play like real tennis, I'd beat them.
How was the recruiting situation going? As a special teams guy, a long snapper, do you hear from a lot of schools, or you kind of have to reach out on your own?
Yeah, you definitely reach out on your own. There are third-party organizations like Cole's, Sailor Kicking. There's, people out there that do it as kicking coaches that have, coaches' contacts and that type of stuff to get you in touch. But no, I mean, there's no, even in pro scouting, like there's not many people that scout good specialists. So you really reach out to the coaches yourself and say, I'd love to come play for you. That's where academics is huge for kickers and all that type of stuff. Because I always tell the story of like UF, USF, and UCF were my top 3 options. And I was waiting to hear back from UF. I had already heard back from UCF that I was accepted, and I hadn't even applied for USF. I called all 3. Coaches picked up eventually. UF said, are you in yet to school? And I said, I'm waiting. He goes, when you hear back, let us know. UCF said, are you accepted into school? I said, yes, sir. I'm fully in. I have full academic scholarship, and all I need from you is a jersey. And like, great, come down for a visit. And USF, I hadn't even applied. And I say, hey, USF, I'd love to come play for you. And they go, are you admitted into school? I go, I haven't applied yet. They go, have a nice day. Don't even bother. So,
well, let's be honest. You could have gotten a USF. I mean, you could have gotten in easily. I
yeah.
assume, Alex. Yeah. I mean, okay. Anybody
What
gets in there.
what was it about UCF that really made it one of your top choices, though?
Well, so that making the choice down to those 3 was there was another snapper ahead of me coming out of high school. His name was Grant Glennon, and he was ranked higher than me, all that type of stuff. Like, he was one of the few guys in the country that got calls from coaches. Like, he was ranked high for a long time in those third-party organizations. So he had a preferred walk-on offer from FSU, UF, UCF, and USF. And then he picked FSU, and so I called the other 3. What put UCF at the top of my board was the engineering program. And when I came on my visit, Miss Tara, our academic advisor, is like next level. She is phenomenal. Yeah, I'm not a material guy. I don't care about the glitz and glamour, the facilities. She sold me on the academic side when I was on my visit, and I was like, yeah, there's nowhere better for me. So
you were the backup. You were the backup, obviously, in 2017, your true freshman year, but you sat behind a guy who was pretty good in Caleb Perez. What did you learn from watching Caleb that first year? How was that first year kind of for you and getting indoctrinated into college football?
I mean, it's a completely different speed of play from high school. Like, I really realized that these are some phenomenal athletes, like even other walk-ons and all that type of stuff. Like, it takes a dude to play with them, and Caleb was a dude. He was a linebacker that transferred over or transitioned to long snapper. So, I really started working on, not that I wasn't athletic before, but really getting my, speed, agility, size, strength, like getting to be a better overall athlete to play with these guys.
Well, 2017 wasn't a total loss for you, Alex. Although you didn't maybe get any playing time, you still had a pretty nice viral moment on the field. How often does someone bring this picture up to you? How often do you see this photograph here, this screen grab of you during the 2017 Black Friday game?
All the time. It pops up at least twice a year and goes viral again. Like, I'll get tagged in it. Barstool throw it back up. UCF throws it back up all the time. It's constantly on Twitter. But it's kind of funny because now people think that everybody in that video has left UCF. I guess they have now. But like last year, where they're like, is this actually him? Like, same guy? Like, he's been here that long? yeah. And there's also Anthony Montavo's in the background with his long hair over to my left, like ball side. And so, both of us are still here. Or worse.
What's the most embarrassing thing about this photo? Is it the hair? Is it the yell? When you look at it, what's the most embarrassing thing about it for you?
Oh, I'm about to expose myself. So, if you watch the video, it's me running down backwards away from like everybody running towards the play. For some reason, I've never wanted to be in the crowd, so I'm running away from it. And so, as I'm running out of camera view, Cole Schneider and Bowman Swanson like jumped and like shoulder bumped, and then Bo came down, looked right at me, and started running at me. And so I go, yeah, and I jumped like I'm going to shoulder bump him, and he just runs past. And so that's why like I jump and I kind of flail in the air because I thought I was gonna get a shoulder bump, and then he just like runs straight by me as I'm flailing there in the air on camera, and then I get down, and that's right when camera cuts. So yeah, I've said for the longest I'm not gonna tell anybody that, but there you go, guys.
Awesome.
Don't care.
Obviously, you were part of a lot of big games at UCF. The Black Friday game is one of them. College game day game against Cincinnati is another one. Is that the craziest game you were part of, the 2017 Black Friday game?
Oh, there's just so many. Yeah, that one was insane. The start of the Cincinnati, college football game was insane. The championship, both those years were insane. Conference championships. Obviously Peach Bowl. Actually, I rank the USF game this year, this past 2022, as like one of the most stressful games ever. So, yeah, I mean, there's a couple of them. Pitt, when we were at Pitt and they beat us with the Philly special, that was something. Yeah.
Well, you didn't play much at all in 2018 either. So How did you take that? How did you deal with that? Now 2 years in the program, not really seeing much playing time.
It's kind of standard operation for a walk-on, not to lie. But so Caleb Perez was coming back for his 5th year, and me being the 18-year-old, thought I was a star type guy. I thought I could have beaten Caleb out like as soon as I got on campus. Looking back, absolutely should not have. Like, Caleb was really good. So, going to that next season, I was like, all right, I'm going to challenge him for the spot. And he kept for the spot. Like, man, I think I can do better than him. And I snapped as well as him. But just athlete-wise, he was above and beyond, 4 years ahead of me in athleticism. So, it was fine. It's not.
We also had a whole new coaching staff that year, right? Heupel comes in, so maybe you have a chance to prove yourself to the new guys. But in what ways was the whole staff different from 17 to 18?
Pretty much night and day. I mean, Heupel brought in this. No, it's hard to say because Frost had a lot of guys that had a lot of coaching experience and playing experience and all that type of stuff. And Heupel brought in some coaches that were not as, he brought in a bunch of guys that were probably former, lower level coaches up into the spotlight, same as he was, offensive coordinator to head coach. But so it was just a different vibe. I don't know. I can't really describe it, but it was significantly different.
2019 comes around. Caleb is finally gone. He's finally graduated. He's left. So, in all intents and purposes, I assume it's maybe your job to lose at that point. But how did you mentally and physically prepare yourself to go in there in 2019 and make sure you won that long snapper job?
So what was interesting was 2018, we lost Caleb and we lost Loudermilk and Matt Wright. So we had a full brand new starting 3, and we knew it was going to be everybody knew. So Coach Toth at the time was really big on us, tried to put us in pressure situations every time, tried to get us as much, pressure, danger situations, situational stuff that you don't normally see in games. We were repping that like crazy, and I knew I could, handle it. I knew I was going to be good. And then we had, Osteen starting at punter, and Barnes was going to be starting at kicker, and Barnes was solid. And so, we pretty much trusted it all around. We actually had 5 technically specialists play that year. So we had every position you have except from long snap to short snap. So I did long snap and short snap. And we had a different holder than a punter, and we had a different kickoff guy than we had a field goal guy. So it was pretty interesting of how all that dynamic fit. But yeah, we weren't that worried. We're all college level specialists.
So the first game comes around, Alex. You run on the field. Are you nervous? Are you excited? Take us through the emotions on that first time you finally, after 2 years of waiting in the wings, get on the field.
Both. So I mean, we played FAMU. So I'm going out and I'm cool. Ready to snap. I'm pretty sure my first snap was a punt snap, but then and fired that back, ran. We were good. First field goal though, they pull out this number 75, and he's 4+. Like, this dude's massive, and he's nose guard. And his first game of the year, and this is the first year they changed. You can't like line up over the center. Like, they always had the rule you had to give him like a second or two his head was up, but they changed it to where you couldn't line up in his framework. And this guy at FAMU was told, run over the long snapper. The FAMU coaches didn't get word of the coaching change or the rule change apparently. So he lines up dead knuckle head up on me. And I just kind of like look around to the ref like, hey, he's not supposed to be here. And so the ref steps in, hey, 75, you got to move out of the way. He goes, what? And then he slides over and he like slides back in, and the ref goes, hold on, snap. And he pushes him over again. And then so he's like, I'm supposed to run over the snapper. Like, you're not allowed to. He's like, what? And then like I snapped it right then, and he came right over me, like verted right in. Very first field goal snap, I get this 400-pound guy falling right on top of me. I was like, this is insane. So I never had anything like that again, thankfully. But he was definitely one I will remember.
Do you remember exactly what happened? Did you just let him trip over you, or what did you do?
Well, so actually, I'm very thankful that I'm really flexible, because I have a video of it, but he comes over and like glances off the guard and hits me and kind of like takes my arm and goes down. And then my guard, I forget who it was at the time, like trapped his legs. And so he just goes falling forward. And my knees were flared to kind of like stop him with my knee. And so his weight goes right on the inside of my thigh and just drives my hip to the ground, and like my body's still up like forward. And so, I mean, my foot was about touching my head, and like I went straight down to the ground and like could have blown out my hip if I wasn't like really flexible. So, yeah, not one I will forget anytime soon.
All right. So you got the new kicker, Barnes. You're new. Everybody's new. Barnes had a very good year that year. I think he only missed 2 kicks. But when he misses those, does it kind of hurt you the same? Do you question whether it was your fault or the holder, or how does that go?
Depends on the miss. Like, if it's a shank, maybe. If it's just like a slight left, slight right, from far especially, we don't really think that much of it. To be honest, I don't hardly even see the kick. Like, I snap and I'm up and blocking, and I'm focused right here, making sure guys don't get through. And then once the kick is up, if it's a long kick, I'll see it like as it goes through. If it was like a field goal, I've never once seen a field goal go through the uprights. I always come to the sideline, hey, we made it, right? And look at the scoreboard, and the point goes up. But so, I mean, just trust you guys. Operation's normally pretty good. I mean, the holder's there to save my butt. So.
We talk about the operation. Obviously, you snap for the punt as well. So how are those two different for you? How schematically is it different? How is it different in terms of your mindset and what you have to do on a field goal extra point snap versus a punt snap?
Field goal is more precise, a little bit of a slower motion. Like, so a field goal, I'll start with a punt. So a punt, you want the ball ripping as fast as possible. So you're firing legs, you're full ab crunch, you're cranking down, driving elbows, firing out your hands. So, it's as much force as you can put on it and keep it extremely accurate as you can. So you're basically ripping and rolling that punt snap. Blocking, you shift your weight back. Not blocking, you keep your weight there and shift forward after the ball's left your hands, that type of stuff. But on field goal, obviously it's a shorter distance, but you take your legs out of it. So your lower body gets set into your stance, and you stay exactly right there with your lower body. Your abs crunch through a little bit, but it's mostly just all arms. And so it's generally the same pull with your arms, like the same speed. but it's lower power because you're not using your lower body and barely using your core. But then field goal, you need a lot more precision on your hands and how quickly they turn through, and how low you keep them on the ground because you try to match up your laces on field goals. Y'all know all that?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Got it down. Got it down. Did OC ever get pissed off at you? Did you ever like bend a finger back on OC and just rifle those things back to him on the punt? Was he ever like, bro, can you take it easy on me?
No. At one point he did have a mishap in the weight room where he hit 2 dumbbells on his middle finger, and so that got clamped and like popped, honestly. So he wore a little like sleeve over it and couldn't use his middle finger for like a camp. I think it was the 2020 camp maybe. And so he'd be dropping a bunch of those just because he can't use like a couple fingers on his hand. But no, he's good. He honestly didn't care where I snapped it. Like, he was great. He was a former baseball guy, and he was like, dude, as long as it gets here, I'm going to catch it. Like, I don't care where it is. I'm going to put it back on my table. And, of course, me being the perfectionist I was like, no, I want to put it exactly on your hip. So I'd be more mad at myself than he'd be mad at me ever.
So that 2019 season ends. Obviously, it's still a productive year, but UCF had set such a standard in 17-18 with back-to-back New Year's Six games. 2019, Gasparilla Bowl against Marshall. As a team, did you feel any letdown? Were guys like, man, it almost felt like kind of a letdown after where you had been the previous 2 seasons?
Yeah, absolutely. We held ourselves to like such a high standard, but also we had so much like stuff going on that year. Like, we had a brand new freshman quarterback. We had, we had a bunch of stuff that was just completely new, completely different. It wasn't a bad year, but it certainly wasn't the year we wished we could have had or thought we could have had, because I think we lost to Tulsa and Pitt and
Cincinnati.
Yeah, so Cincinnati got good that year, and then we should have beat Tulsa and Pitt. So we were definitely looking at, we should have been 1 win or 1 loss, maybe 2 at most, but we had 3, so that was a disappointing part.
And then we get to COVID year, which was weird on everybody. I know a lot of people were thinking about not coming back. They weren't sure what to do. How did you handle that whole off season and coming into that season?
Oh, I was ripping and rolling. I say to this day, COVID's the best shape I was ever in, because my dad and I were back home. One of my grandpa's warehouses, we set up a little corner where we had our own little personal gym, bolted to something that looked like a rack to the walls, So we worked out probably 3 to 4 hours a day. And I was just, UCF gave us a workout plan, and they were taking into account that some guys would cheat reps. And so they made it like longer workouts, higher sets and reps for everything. And me being me, and especially my dad being my dad, we added more sets and reps to the sets and reps they gave us. So we were doing like 6x8 squats or something crazy, like a bunch of single leg stuff, because they didn't know how much weight guys had, but I had a good amount of weight. So I started, for a single leg that you're supposed to use like a 45-pound dumbbell, I had like a 185 barbell, we were ripping and rolling in that. So, and I was ready to come back and absolutely attack the season. Like, second year, I know what I'm going into. Like, let's go. And then with all that COVID stuff and camp, we didn't know if we were going to play. We didn't know anything, really. We didn't know if it was safe, how safe we were going to be. If I talk to you over Zoom now and you have COVID, I'm a close contact. Like, all that stuff was crazy. That didn't actually happen. But that was the most up in the air football has ever been, and I don't think it will ever get that way again.
Well, that year, there's a couple big plays for you. One, you get credit for a tackle. On a punt return, right? What do you remember about that play?
Which one?
How many tackles did you have?
I had 4 total. Now so I got credit for my first tackle was BYU, 20
in the bowl 19, I guess.
No,
2020 bowl game.
Yeah, but so that was my first credited tackle, I'm pretty sure. but also I did not get a credit for a tackle against Tulsa. I have a feeling that's what you're talking about.
Well, I was going to get to that one. The one where you ripped the guy's helmet off?
That was that. I did not get credit for that tackle.
All right. So what happened on that play? Was that just frustration in the game? Because I don't ever remember. That was the one time I ever got mad at you. Because obviously all your snaps were good, but then you cost us 15 yards on that one play.
Yep. So total blind, just not even thinking. So what happened was I was, playing Tulsa, hauling as fast as I could down the field. And so I get there, and I've been waiting for a tackle for a year and more than a half at this point. I think it was like game 9, like something late in the season. So I'm running, and this dude is not fair catching, and I'm getting closer and closer and closer. I'm like, this dude might actually let me just lay him out. So right as I get there, he throws his hands up, and that's that's where he's like ready to catch it, and that's like take your shot. If he doesn't have his hands up when you get there, you slow down, break down, get in front of him. So he throws his hands up, and I'm like, I'm about to level this guy. And so he catches it and immediately just ducks. And so I go in full shoulder, ready to like put my shoulder in his sternum. And he is now ducked under me. And so my wrap just gets only his head. My right hand goes inside his face mask, and my left hand like grabs his pads or something. And I kind of just like expecting to hit like this. I kind of roll over the top of him and rip his helmet off. And so I stand up, and he's still rolling, or he's still running. And I got like my hand is full through this face mask, like helmet attached to my hand. And I just rip it, and like I don't even think about it. And as soon as I throw it, he gets tackled. And I'm like, oh man, that's 15. Like, that's not what you're supposed to do. And then I had some other kid from Tulsa come up to me, like, don't ever do that. And I was like, give me another helmet. I'll do it again.
What was Heupel's reaction to that on the sideline?
Heupel was rightfully upset, as anyone was, but the worst guy was, I forget his name. He was our corners coach at the time. Corey Ivy. Ivy was livid. He was, because he was coaching gunners and stuff. So, like, the gunners were the ones that actually tackled the guy, theoretically. But he came over to me. Like, he met me at the numbers, and he was ripping me all the way back to the sideline. And so by the time I got to Heupel was like, you can't do that, man. And Ivy was, so just like got away. Like, not my brightest moment. Probably my least brightest moment, but oh well.
2020, you break in a new kicker as well. Daniel Barsky takes over for Dylan Barnes, who graduated. What's the process like breaking in a new kicker? Obviously, you're introducing someone new to the operation. Yeah, at this point, you're the veteran. What are the things you have to do to kind of get yourself, on the same page with a new kicker and get the operations moved out?
Barsky had already been with us for a year, so that helped. It wasn't like a freshman. But so the timing of the operation is all on the kicker. It's his steps he takes, how long he takes, and based off of how long he takes to get to a spot, that's when I get down to the ball, all that type of stuff. The speed, the holder comes back and calls for the ball. The whole 9 is like based off of the kicker. So all that changes, but we had plenty of time to change that. It was more of just like, honestly, it's not that big a deal. Like, we had a full off season. We were ready to roll with Obarski. His first year, he was real long to the ball. Like, he was 4+ yards on his approach. And so we needed a faster operation time because, it takes longer to get those 4 yards, big steps. And so we were constantly rushing to try to go faster on operation time. And then we got really good at going faster operation time. So our operation times are really, really low for the country, like whole national average. But then it starts to get inconsistent when you get too low. So we were the whole season, really both years he kicked, we were really fighting to keep it, that operation time in a good, happy medium.
We had a chance to have Daniel on the show probably about, I don't know, 6 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago. And he talked about that Memphis game. And he told us that that was like the turning point in his UCF career, kind of the turning point in his life. And, he kind of shared pretty vulnerably how that changed him and kind of what he learned from that and kind of what he experienced. But obviously that game is going to be remembered for that missed field goal and some of those other things. But there was a sideline incident. You were right there in the middle of that incident, right? So Obarski and Quadri Jones get a little back and forth. You're a leader on the team. You're a veteran on the team at that point. What was your role in that process? Were you trying to separate guys? Were you trying to calm everybody down? I know it wasn't what you expected. I'm sure that's not what you thought was going to happen. But what was your role? Kind of what were you trying to accomplish as you saw that unfolding?
I was trying to keep Obarski and myself from murdering Quad.
Okay.
So Obarski had come off the field and takes his helmet, spikes it, and it bounced right back up to him or something, like not what you're not supposed to do. So Heupel yells at him for that, and I kind of yelling out for missing the kick, And so me being me, I just pick up the helmet, I pick up his ear pad that popped out, and I'm sitting over there like next to him, like, man, you're fine. Like, it happens. We shouldn't be in that situation. We passed on 2 field goals already in this game. Like, not your fault. And so I'm sitting there trying to put his ear pad in. And how much did he share with you?
He wouldn't tell us exactly what Quad said. He said he couldn't remember specifically what was said there, but he generalized it was something along the lines of, "Hey, next time you should make that kind of thing," but he didn't offer the specific quote.
No, I fully remember, but
perfect.
Yeah, no. Quad comes over. How are you going to miss that kick when all you do in practice is kick? And that was just something us specialists hate. Like the whole, you have one job, how are you going to miss, that type of stuff. So that flipped a switch in all of our brains. And and it was already high stress, high tension, and not our brightest moment.
You come back at him with like, what are you doing on the bench? I mean, you're not even in the play.
Yeah, like
obviously you guys are brothers. You play a game together every day at this point, right? How long did it take for that to kind of get squashed out after the fact? How long before you and Quad and Daniel had a chance to either, or did you have a chance to squash it? Sort of after the game ended.
Didn't squash it soon. They didn't squash it soon. It was kind of on both sides. Neither party wanted much to do with either party. So.
All right. Well, then next year comes around, another new coaching staff.
Yep.
What are the differences? I think Matt Wright said, was there a year or two where you guys didn't even have a specialist coach, and now you guys, I think Nick Toth comes in, and then you got another coach coming in afterwards. What was the biggest changes there?
Yeah, so to go off what Matt said, so in 2017 we had Coach DeWitt and his number 2, Zach Crespo, and DeWitt was also the outside linebackers coach, but Crespo was the specialist like quality control coach. So he was the guy that was with us all practice. But game 2 or 3 in 2017, Crespo goes to work outside linebackers as well because he didn't want to be a specialist coach. He wanted to be a linebackers coach. So he leaves, and we are on our own reconnaissance for the 10 games towards the end of the season, whatever. Then Coach Toth comes in. He's a special teams coordinator that only does special teams. So he's with us all practice. And so he's, he's with us. He's on us. He's giving us situations, talking us through, stuff we need to be cognizant of. Like he's watching film with us and all that type of stuff. So that was kind of new for us. We got 3 years of that. And then we go back to Coach Blackman with Malzahn's staff. And Coach Blackman, I said it 1,000 times. I'll say it 1,000 more. Absolutely best coach I've ever got to witness. He's phenomenal. Best, great guy, great coach. And so obviously he's like, not that Coach Toth was bad, but he's a step up. Like So being with him, he's also our tight ends coach. So it's kind of back to that, quality control, being our main contact, that type of stuff. They're not significantly different, but it's, they all have their strengths.
And what were your first impressions of Gus, and how much does Gus even get involved in the specialists?
So my first impression of Gus, so we played him in the Peach Bowl, and my dad is he played at Troy, and about as anti-Auburn as you can get. So the whole time there was kind of rumored we were getting Gus. My dad is, I hope you don't get Malzahn. I hope you don't get Malzahn. Oh. And so when we get him, he's like, oh, man, that's a terrible hire. We're never going to be going to. And so when he comes in, I had never seen Gus. I'd seen a picture of him, but I thought he was more of like a Steve Spurrier, like a short, kind of older guy. No, Gus is 6'4.5". And so they say, hey, we hired Gus Malzahn. And so we're like, hey, all right, cool. And then this tall dude walks in. I thought he was going to be short. And so that was my first impression, was just like, whoa, he's a lot bigger than I thought he was. And but then what was the second half of that question?
How involved is he with the specialist during practice or in meetings or anything like that?
He's more of just we talked about trying to get in pressure situations. Gus adds the pressure to those situations. So he's right there. He's he doesn't understand specialists, but he'll be right there. Like, he knows you have to make a kick, obviously. So he's trying to add as much pressure as he possibly can. And then he throws into the special teams game plan, not game plan, but the way we punt and kick, the schemes. He weighs into those a decent amount and makes sure, double checks Coach Blackman and all that. So, but strictly specialist wise, he kind of leaves us alone, especially when I was there, because he, him and I had a great relationship, and so he was like, I'll leave the specialists to Ward and Coach Blackman, and they got it. They're good.
What about the trick plays? Is he involved in those?
Oh, that's all him.
Yeah.
He's got all those.
Was there anything designed for you, maybe to catch a pass or something? Is that even legal?
There was in 2017. So, and kind of 2018. So 2017, we ran a bunch of gates with field goal. So, we had Loudermilk, Wheelan, and Dealan back there. He was a quarterback in high school, all that. So every game we had a different gate, which is a fake field goal, basically, which is you line up with the guards and tackles out wide, and you run guys all over the place, and it's just mayhem for a defense. So we had one of those every week. And so just in case he wanted to throw the snapper in there, he put myself and Perez and Ebbs in, eligible numbers. And so we never did it with a snapper that year. But in 2018, when we all still had eligible numbers, we ran a punt scheme that shifted everybody to the right, or maybe everybody to the left. I don't quite remember. Anyway, we had everybody on one side of the ball, and snapper was the last man on line of scrimmage, except for the gunner. But so there was a play called Gangster back then, where one of our shield guys would run up and get on the line, and the shield would shift out. And so it looked like we were about to run a fake that way. And then he would snap it, angle snap to Mac. He would run over, and Caleb would kind of peel out the back door, and he'd throw it back to him. So that was our one snapper fake, but we never ran it and never got the chance to. And then we got out of that system after it got blocked at Pitt, and then didn't have the chance for it again. So,
all right, that 2021 year, October 22nd, does that date ring a bell for you at all?
2021? No. October 22nd, 2022 was my best friend's wedding. But.
Okay, no, I don't have that. I don't have that research. October 22nd, 2021. You recovered a fumble Alex Ward against Memphis. Talk us through your one and only fumble recovery. How excited were you? If I remember correctly, it was a clean fumble. You pounced on that thing like I don't even know, like you've been trying that in your entire life. Do you remember that fumble recovery?
Oh, vividly. So running down the field, Memphis, and it's me, and I see the gunners kind of out of my periphery, and I'm like, all right, here we go. Same feeling I've had 1,000 times of like, first one down, let's go. Hopefully he doesn't get it or muffs it, whatever. And sure enough, Amari is right there, and he muffs it. And maybe because of Amari just like blows past him for some reason. Ball comes out. It's now me, him, and I can't quite see Burns on my left side. And so we're all going for the ball. Burns grabs the returner and kind of pulls him out of the way, pulls him just off enough to where I can dive under him. Played D-line all in high school, so I've got the coaching of, cradle it and all that type of stuff, fetal position on your side, so I do that, and I drop over it. I kind of drop down weird on it, but then I go to roll to my side, and as I roll to my side, I kind of roll over on my back, and Jermaine McMillan jumps on top of me. And I know the only thing I know is that I have to keep this ball, and I need to get on my side in the fetal position. So I'm fighting my hardest to try to get back down. The returner kind of has his hands in there, but it's me and Jermaine like holding the ball, and I don't know if Jermaine is on my team. Like I see him obviously, but I don't know whose hands are pulling on the ball. So I'm trying to rip it away from Jermaine, and I'm flat on my back with like my feet up in the air, and I'm just like, get off me! I need to get down. Like I'm just shaking like crazy trying to get down, and then we finally get up, and I pop up with the ball and come running off. And then I swear I got a concussion on the sideline. Like everybody was so excited, and we've had a thing forever of like get a piece of his helmet. Like if somebody does something good, somebody scores a touchdown, like come back and like pat their helmet. Well, people were not patting my helmet. People were full on smacking my helmet, like full volleyball spiking my helmet. So, I had guys like Austin Campbell came up and like full headbutted me, and like, of course, adrenaline's flowing, blood's rushing to my head as I'm, cooling back down on the sideline, and here I am just getting absolutely hammered in the head. But yeah, that's basically it. That's the full.
Did you get to keep the football? Did you try to hide it from people and try to abscond it so you could put it there in that glorious room you have behind you?
No. Actually, I ran off and tossed it to the ref, because since we got the ball back, they were resetting that same ball. So they just straight up put it down. And I was like, all right, whatever.
Did you at least get a game ball from Gus at the end of the game? Did you get one of the game balls?
I think so.
All right. That's
I don't fully remember that part, but I think so. That was also Space Game, so pretty sure that's the first year we gave Gus his space jersey. So game balls weren't that big of a deal that game.
Yeah, you guys gave him a Schmedium, if I remember correctly. You guys gave him the smallest space game jersey ever created. But that season 2021 obviously is going to be remembered for a lot of things. But Alex, the amount of injuries the team endured that season is unlike anything I think any of us have ever seen at UCF. As you're kind of there week to week and you're seeing all the guys going down and kind of injuries and treatment, what was the vibe of the team? And as a leader of the team, like, what are you trying to do to help the young guys, help kind of keep morale up, even though week after week, it seems like another guy is going down for a couple of weeks?
Yeah. I mean, we've always had the next man up mentality, but man, that Louisville game at Louisville hurt. Like we had, I think it was Ricky, Bowser, Flash, O'Keefe, maybe Bethune, one of the linebackers.
I think it was JJB.
Yeah, it was. So they all went down with either PCL tears or strains and MCL strains. And so it was just like I credit it fully on the turf at Louisville. Like it is, hats off to Lamar Jackson, because the fact that he ran on that turf for 3 years, however long he was there, and didn't blow his knee out, the way he runs is incredible. It's rock solid. It's like concrete with a little bit of fuzz on top. Like, so we were just, we play in Florida where we have grass and it's really soft, nice grass. And so we're very used to when we cut hard, the grass gives, we get this nice little like block, basically, like it pushes all the way down. And so we have slow, strong turns down here, and turf up there didn't do that. Like it was just rock solid. So your foot turned, I taped my ankles for that game. Like one of the first times I taped my ankles for a game. Just very different. And so with all those guys going down in that game, it was really like, oh boy, like here we go for the rest of the season. This is not going to be the same level of play. Because, I mean, Ricky was out for 5 weeks. Bowser was out. Bowser came back early for the Cincinnati game. Like I don't think he was supposed to play, but he squeaked by getting cleared. Yeah, so, I mean, it was just rough. We were playing good teams after that, and didn't have hardly the starters we should have been playing with.
That year you became a finalist for the Manley Award, right?
Correct. Yes.
Have you ever heard of that award before? Do you know who Manley is? Did you have to research it, or is that something you had as a goal for yourself?
So that was the 3rd annual Patrick Manley Awards. So it was brand new. Of course, I know who Patrick Manley is. He's a, one of the first. He really set up snappers the right way. So, I knew who he was. I knew of the award. I followed it the year before, but it never really at that time. So one of the founders is Chris Rubio, who's one of those ranking coaches I talked about. Like at a high school, you go to Coles, Rubio snapping, you can go to hammer kicking, like different guys. Rubio's one of those. He's probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest. The previous years, he's one of the founders. The previous years, one of his long-term high school to college snappers had won it. And so I was like, I never went to Rubio. I didn't even know he existed until I came to college. So, there's no chance I even get close because it's like a, publicity, like it's a Rubio award, like same type of thing the Special Teams U does. So I was like, no chance I even get close to the final. And then here I am. I got to like the semifinalists, like the top 10. And I called my dad, like, no way, we made the top 10. Like, let's go. And then a couple weeks later, I'm just laying in bed. And for some reason, I'm checking my email. I get an email from Kevin Gold, who's another one of the founders. And it's, congratulations, you're a finalist. And I've had a couple of those moments of just like, holy cow, like, what is happening? There's no way I should be even close to winning this award. And here I am, top 3 finalist. So that was a pretty surreal moment. Got a call shortly after that email to set up travel plans. Like, that was the first time it was like, whoa, okay, here we go. Like, this is incredible. And then obviously get up to Chicago, meet Patrick Manley, Top Rate Human, the nonprofit they're with, phenomenal job in Chicago. They give books out to people. They give books out to underprivileged kids and all that type of stuff. Got to go do that. It was a fantastic, fantastic experience. And luckily I got to do it 2 years in a row.
Being a finalist is cool. But, I mean, let's be honest. The preseason stuff, when they put like 40 guys on the list, that's a little ridiculous, no?
I don't know if it's even 40. I think it's there's definitely, so the big game boomer guy or whatever it is, that is a list that is not to be regarded in the highest at all. Like, he's
we know.
I don't know. But just like, he's throwing big names around, and he'll throw some really good guys really low on the list just to get the publicity. And like, he'll take the Alabama snapper and put him at like 47, and so all the Alabama fans go crazy. Like, so that type of stuff. But no, once you get to the top 10, those are all very legit snappers.
Yeah, we had Big Game Boomer on the live show with us once, and he was talking about the food or whatever, and we said, "How'd you find out the favorite restaurant around UCF?" He goes, "I don't know. I asked one guy, and this is what he told me," and that's how he came up with his list.
Yeah,
I don't think anything serious.
it's very clear when it comes to kickers and punters and snappers because, the specialist community is very tight and we all train with each other because there's only a couple each school. And so to get good competition, you have to go with other guys in different schools and you train with them in high school and blah, blah, blah. And so we're like, no way this guy should be way down there. No way. Like, no. So.
Well, that year you also get the Order of Pegasus Award. Explain to everybody what that is and how proud you are of that one.
Yeah. So this is actually something I hate describing because it seems like I'm bragging, but it is the actual premise of the award. It's the UCF's recognition to a student at UCF, not a student athlete, a student that exemplifies the UCF creed and is their model of a perfect student. So UCF creed, I had this memorized. Excellence, community, integrity, academics, and I think community is actually service.
Here's the best part. You could have said anything right there and we would not have known the difference. So you could have just gotten away with anything.
So it's the UCF non-athletic recognition. And I was lucky to get the nomination from the athletics department. So every college can nominate 3 students. So College of Engineering, College of Nursing, all of them nominate 3 nominees, applicants. And then you go through another set of interviews with the board of directors of UCF or whoever's in charge of it. And so I got selected from the athletics portion, myself, McKenna Melville, and Sydney Turner. And then all 3 of us ended up winning it. So it was a huge honor. There's I think there were 28 undergrads that year and a graduating class of 17 or 18,000. So
I'll take the brag for you, Alex. According to the website, the Order of the Pegasus is the most prestigious award a student can win. So that's directly from the website. So that's a pretty cool honor. And you obviously
they
at this
must
point
not have been giving those out when we were in school, right? I would have.
They must not have. They must be new. Obviously, you had a lot of things in your favor at this point, Alex, and you easily could have gone pro and decided to try your next phase of your life. But you decided to come back to UCF for 2022. Take us through that decision process and why you decided to give it one more ride here at UCF.
So I was I was full on the whole season, 100%. I'm going to declare. Especially when I got the finalists and all that type of stuff with Manly. I was like, yep, I'm out. I've planned my graduation to be exactly when I finish football. I've been planning on this forever. COVID year doesn't mean anything. I'm leaving. So especially I got the Senior Bowl invite and I was like, yep, I am good to go. So, and then I talked to SJ Tui, and he was like, because SJ had his career in college athletics, he played basketball and football and I think field hockey and water polo. He was all around for different teams, different years. So he was like, dude, I miss it every day. Play college football for as long as you possibly can. And that got me thinking, it's if I'm as good as I think I am at snapping, the average long snapper in the pros plays 8 years. It's that is longer than I will have been here, to have an average career in the NFL. So why would I not play here as long as I can? Come back for that 6th, get free schooling. There's a whole bunch of pros to staying. There's a whole bunch of pros to going. There was one bad situation that was really the tipping point. I'm an organized person. I made a pros and cons list. It was extensive. There was one bad situation, and that was if I declared and didn't make a team. And then I would have given up a year of free school, free food, free housing, football, and just being in college with friends. So I would have given up all that just to take a shot 1 year before I had to. And I think I was ready. I absolutely could have played. But, I guess we'll never know.
Look, I don't blame you. I miss college every day of my life, Alex. I certainly don't blame anyone who says if I can squeeze one more year out of school, I would do it again in a heartbeat if I could. And by the way, I don't play football, so UCF would not benefit from me being there. But obviously, we benefit from you being there. But in what ways was 2022 different than 2021? Obviously, the second year of the Malzahn era, some of the stuff that with the quarterback, all that stuff kind of worked itself out. But now we have a bunch of transfers coming in and a new quarterback battle. And you're in your front row seat. How was 2022 different than 2021?
Very different. So obviously we had the transfers out and the transfers in. So a whole bunch of different faces. You're just looking at like pretty much a different culture. Like it's not a bad culture, but it was more of with the transfers he brought in, all that type of stuff where he brought in guys to be our star guys. It wasn't we were building from the inside. We had O'Keefe, and then, lo and behold, O'Keefe is our number 3 receiver now because he brought in 2 really good players, but guys that we don't know, and he's got a brand new quarterback who, doesn't have the same, also we had Mikey. So that was interesting watching that quarterback battle when ultimately on the inside, like we all knew John Rice was brought in to play. So, love Mikey. Absolutely kudos to Mikey for everything he went through and all that. Just kind of, it was weird. It was different. Like a whole lot of stuff was just very new and very like, all right, I guess this is what we're doing now. Okay. So, yeah, it was interesting. I'd say I definitely had quite an entertaining ride here at UCF.
Well, the punter stayed the same, so you were used to snapping to him. But early in the year, we get a new kicker. Colton Boomer starts kicking. Does that have any effect on you? I mean, you're snapping, I guess, just to the holder. Does who the kicker is have any effect on you?
So the punter did not stay the same, but kind of. Like I said earlier, like it's just the tempo at which he takes his steps and that type of stuff. But no, I mean, Osteen was new to holding that year. So my first year starting, I had Alex Harris holding, who's one of our receivers. The next year I had Alan Curvin holding, who is our backup punter, and he was just really solid with hands and all that type of stuff. And then so this was Osteen's first year holding. I had to really pound him on the reps because he was not a big stickler for like exact measurements, and that's very big for me. But so we just pounded it through. He was a very good holder, he was great at catching all that. So, straight out the gate, Boomer just absolutely trusted us with all that, every ounce of his body. He was like, I know, especially from like me, that the ball is going to be there exactly when it goes. So he just went to kick. So like, it wasn't too big of a deal. Switch it to Boomer, and he did a great job.
You're right about the punter. We went from Osteen to McCarthy, right?
Correct.
Was there any big differences there?
Yeah. So Mitch was fresh off the boat in August. Like he flew in, got picked up at the airport, and was at practice like the next day. Like it was an instant, shock to his system, total culture change in a sport that he doesn't know playing at one of the highest levels. So he knows he's there to punt. He knows he's supposed to punt it far. They have Pro Kick Australia, which like kind of coaches these guys in Australia up to then come over here and play. But Pro Kick Australia is not, they don't really know how to like kick, like punt like Americans. They do end over ends, and it's a different ball. It's a lot harder to do, all that type of stuff. So he gets in, and he's of course having to make all these changes like right away. So we're trying to coach him through that, and this dude's got a howitzer on for a leg, like absolutely biggest ball I think I've ever seen, besides maybe Tommy Townsend. So he's just crushing balls, and he's like kicking them right down the middle of the field. And we're like, great, Mitch, that was really good, but we need it like over there, like to the right, like off, like put it outside the numbers. He was like, all right, what are the numbers? See the numbers on the field, like, practice, so we don't have like the numbers spray painted, and so we need it outside the numbers. And it took him like a week before he even said, like, I don't know what the numbers are. Gotcha. Okay, so we're starting here. So literally starting from the ground up, like stuff we take for granted of knowing football was like, you know, we really had to spell out like what he needed to do. So as he grew into the year, he started, you know, learning the game, situational, you know, type of stuff. And so I'd always be the one briefing him before we got in a situation. Like the coaches are all trying to figure out what they do or what they need to do. And I've been here long enough. I know exactly what we're about to do. So I'd be over there on the side, like, all right, Mitch. So you see it's 3rd down and 12 on our own 35-yard line. They know we're not going to fake it, so they're going to rush it. So he's going to come over here in a second and tell you need to punt it really fast. What he's really saying is, I get my butt ripped if we get this blocked. So you just need to not get it blocked. So he's going to come over here and he's going to stress you out. Don't listen to him because this is what he's really saying. And, you know, we just need to get this punt off. We're good at it. Let's just do what we always do. He's like, all right, cool, got it. All right. And then sure enough, like the whole thing goes away. Like, so there's a lot of stuff like that. It was like me kind of managing, you know, all right, his mind and teaching him as we were going in full game reps. So that it was interesting. I definitely had a fun experience with Mitch and, you know, teaching him football and that type of stuff.
So all the crazy games we played in, we lost some tough ones. What's the one that you want back, the one that haunts you the most of all the games?
Navy, without a doubt, Navy.
This year's Navy?
Oh, my God. Any Navy, first of all. Any Tulsa and Pitt 2019. Any those. Oh, man, that hurts.
Yeah, this year's Navy, we try to figure out what happened. It wasn't because we had to play at 11 o'clock, right? That was not the excuse.
I honestly don't know. It didn't change for me. I don't know. I don't remember enough about that game. Just, I do remember the 4th and 1 and the very first drive. Because even I never questioned the coaches, and I'm running out there like, why am I going out here now? Like, why are we playing? It's 13 minutes left in the first quarter, and they just scored, I think, or they at least got down there and put points up, and they had gone for a 4th and 1. And here we are on our 40-yard line, or maybe 45-yard line, punting 4th and 1 with like all the game in the world left. Like, all right, here we go. And then who knows?
All right, well, you made the decision coming back this last year. You played well. Did you accomplish everything you wanted to in this last year?
No. I did not. Well, I didn't go perfect. Well, I did for y'all's.
When you say perfect, you mean that he doesn't have to move his hands. Is that it?
Pretty much. Within basically knees to nipples, kind of, is the strike zone. I had two low snaps this year, so I didn't go quite perfect on those. But then, you know, and I didn't win the Manley Award, but who cares?
That's political stuff. That's big game boomer stuff, probably.
No, that was real. It was so they have like a rubric they send out. They have a bunch of like actual high quality snapping coaches and former pro snappers and, you know, professional or retired head coaches, retired special teams coaches. Like, they have some people backing that award. And so like they send out the film of the 3 finalists to all of them. They all sit down and watch about an hour of film apiece, like of the snappers. And then they grade you on accuracy, velocity, athleticism, coverage, and one of the biggest keys is blocking, because for the NFL you have to block. And so to be the best college snapper, you should block. So in 2021, I was blocking, and that's what I think actually got me to that stage. It got me to the finalists because not many people were blocking that year. The next year, both those guys that I went against were blocking, and Chris Stoll that won it was blocking. Actually, no, Matt Hembrough was not blocking. I was not blocking. Chris Stoll was blocking. And that little bit, I've seen the rubric. They sent it to me. It's like added points to you, but it doesn't take points away from you. And it was a dead tie between me and Chris Stoll through the day of the event. Like through everybody voting across the board, it was a complete tie between us, points even. Another guy, they sent it out to another guy to watch, and nobody knew who won until the ceremony, when that guy got his film back to him and said, I picked this guy. And so on the paper they opened up, I was sitting right behind them, I could see it. On the paper they opened up, they had Chris Stoll and Alex Ward both on the page with a little star next to Chris Stoll. So that one kind of stings, but who cares? I'll get over it.
Well, Alex, maybe you win that award if Colton Boomer could have hit that 64-yarder this year. Can you explain that to us? Can you explain that to us? Because we've heard so much, and it was fourth down. It was supposed to be a fake. And I think Gus, and I'm sure you guys are good and all, but I'm pretty sure he threw you under the bus in a presser and was like, he just snapped the doggone thing, right? So can you walk us through what happened there?
So the reason you've probably heard so many different stories is because there was so much different stuff going on. There was no clear communication there by all of our faults, collectively. So we had one timeout when I looked at it. Obviously, we called the timeout, and I go, all right, great. I look up at the scoreboard, there's a timeout, but then they took the timeout off, and I didn't look at the scoreboard. So we're going through, what do we do? We have like 4 or 5 situations designed for this. And they say, all right, we're going to call basically a field goal on 2. So, he gives the call, a snap. If they don't jump off sides, all right, cool. We snap it the second time. That's how field goal on 2 works. So they call that play, and then they say, but don't snap it. I go, cool. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, we go out, we try to fake them to get them to jump off sides. If they don't, we call a timeout. So I'm thinking we got a timeout. Osteen, doing the holder, he's coming on the field, and he's like, why are we kicking a field goal? He was expecting Mitch to punt, and he's like, why are we kicking a field goal? And I don't even know if he got the call that it was not supposed to be snapped at all. So he just gets the water call, the snap on 2. Oh shit, I shouldn't have said that. He just gets the snap on 2 call. So he's sitting there holding, and he flashes, and then as he should have done, and he flashes again, and he kind of looks at me, and looks back at Boomer, and like flashes again. And after that third flash, I'm like, Sam Jackson's my right guard, and I go, I'm not supposed to snap this, right? And Sam goes, what? Just having not heard me. But in my mind, I'm like, oh, no, I'm supposed to snap this. And so Osteen's, of course, giving me like a mad eye, like, why are you not snapping this? Like, snap it. And so on the 4th flick, I'm all right, I snap it. And he catches it, puts it down, and then Boomer's not expecting to kick it. He got the full message that we're not kicking it. So he's like, oh, shoot. He kind of like jumps into his kick and goes and kicks it. Obviously, doesn't make it 64 yards. He's not expecting to kick a field goal. So we all just kind of like, and Sam goes audibly, did you just snap that? And I go, yes. And I go hauling downfield. Oh my God, I gotta make a tackle. So luckily the guy was in the back of the end zone. Colton kicked it to about the 7 or 8. And so this guy comes running up out of the back of the end zone trying to scoop it up, misses it, goes through his hands. Thankfully, he turns back around, picks it up. And by then I'm 5 yards away from him. I get my ankles broken, and he runs off down the sideline. The O-line kind of files him towards the sideline, and Boomer comes through with a saving tackle. But, like, Man, that was a bad situation there.
So who got yelled at after that?
Me, 100%.
Okay, that was all you. Okay.
Yes, I got Gus. Gus came back from. He was like almost to the locker room, and he turned around and came backtracking and found me. Oh, you got lucky because the defense made a good stop there at the end, and you got so lucky they saved your butt. You got lucky. That's so lucky. I'm like, yes, sir. Yes, sir. I agree. And oh man, yeah, I felt terrible. And that was Boomer's only missed field goal of the year. So
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that's tough. But things are looking up for you now, Alex, because you had a chance to go to the Senior Bowl. You had some really good publicity there, and you were the only specialist invited to the NFL Combine. For those watching on video, you've got your Combine shirt now now, which is really cool. What was that experience like? What kind of feedback did you get from being at the Combine?
It was great. Being there, it means the special teams coordinators think I'm the top snapper coming out this year. Because the coordinators put together a list of who they want to see at the Combine, and they all submit that to the NFL, and the NFL, or whoever runs the Combine, and the Combine puts it together and invites the guys with the most votes. So I got the most votes from coordinators throughout the league. And then when I was there, it's a weird game coordinators play. It's kind of, if they really want you, they don't really engage you. They don't try to, pick you up a lot. They don't try to sell you, because if they're going to draft you, they want to keep your price low, basically. They want you to go as deep in the draft as you can. Then teams that sort of want you are the ones not whining and dining because they can't actually recruit you, but like schmoozing you, saying like, oh, great job. You really have what it takes to play for us. We'd love to, see you again. And then you have guys that straight up don't care. They have a long-term snapper and they just don't care about talking to a snapper. So it's hard to decide, or hard to tell who's interested and who's not, and all that type of stuff. But it was cool. The way they do specialist interviews is all the coordinators get together, and they all, of course, know each other. They all go up into like a box in the stadium, and they send all the specialists up there. And so we walk into this room, and there's 30, actually there's probably 50 special teams coordinators and assistants. And so we're all like, whoa. And of course we're studying, personnel, who do we want to talk to, or memorizing faces of these guys, of teams we think we're going to meet with. So we get up there, and it's just, they try to pull you off. They try to make you upset. They do everything they can to rally you, to see how you handle pressure, like any chance they can, type stuff. So it was interesting.
Did you get any crazy questions? Anybody ask you to recite the alphabet backwards, or to tell you the last time you cried? Any crazy questions?
I wish. I've been waiting for some of those questions. Y'all know I'm like a huge nerd, obviously, from like Pegasus stuff. Huge nerd. And I'm waiting for riddles of like a riddle that stumped me, like something like that, like some abstract question that's going to make me really think. I didn't get a single one. Now, obviously, the NFL is not catered towards deep thinkers, but yeah, I was really waiting for one. And like a couple meetings I had with like scouts at the Senior Bowl, because then you meet one-on-one with the team scout. And they were like, listen, we don't need a snapper. Anything you want to talk about? And I was like, yeah, you got any like hard questions or mind teasers or anything like that? And so a couple of them tried, but I ended up giving them riddles. So, yeah.
Well, Alex, maybe we can stump you, because we're going to end this interview with a rapid fire question. So these could be questions about music, movies, sports, food, anything and everything in between. So are you prepared to deal with our rapid fire questions? Maybe we can stump you.
Let's give it a go.
All right. So I'm at the risk of sounding foolish, which I've done many times in my life so far. It looks like you may be wearing two watches. What do we got on the wrists here? Are those two watches that a Whoop band on one side? What do we got there?
Right. This is a It's Iron Man Timex watch that I've worn since the day I was born. I can't remember a time when I haven't had one of these on because my dad always wore the same one.
It still fits you very well, by the way.
Well, different watches. I break them consistently.
Fair enough.
But this is Whoop Bend, yeah. So in the combine training and all that type of stuff, I've been monitoring my sleep and heart rate and HRV and everything Whoop does. So I luckily got some guy to sponsor it and help me understand everything that it does and all that. And so it's been really helpful, and it's really exposed a lot of stuff that I'm not sleeping as well, and I need like 10 hours tonight to catch up from last night. And so
nice.
Interesting.
I need that.
But yeah, double watching it up.
Well, you mentioned you were a tennis player back in high school. Have you gotten into pickleball at all?
I absolutely cannot stand pickleball.
Oh no. You've done it, Mike. You've angered him.
Why?
He's rattled.
So in tennis, I've always been, the bigger, stronger guy, and therefore I can play a heavier ball. It just means like a higher, deeper bouncing, more spin ball. It's harder to hit back. So I could be the guy that plays the heavier ball, and because the racket's relatively lighter to me than it is to other guys, I can swing faster, get more racket head speed, get more speed on the ball. And so I've always had to play this huge, like, top spin, like ripping it to where it comes back down the court and is consistent. So in doing that, my swing for tennis is very over the top. See if I can get this right. Very over the top, like driving forward. And with pickleball, it's a wiffle ball and like a plastic paddle. And you hit it like this, like angled down, it just goes straight down. And so I think I lost to my grandma when she introduced me to it, because like she was sitting there, palms up, clunking the ball back like they all do. And I was like, just natural instinct would kick in from my 10, 11 years of playing tennis. I'd go do a normal swing and go straight into the ground. And, of course, the hole, you can't step in the kitchen or whatever, where the little box by the net, and you have to sit behind it and, like, kind of dink away. Like, absolutely can't stand that. I was always the guy in tennis to get up on the net and bounce it over the fence. So
he's flustered. Yeah. You angered him, Mike. You angered him. I think hopefully the Falcons aren't watching this, because you are angered, you're flustered, and that may impact your draft status there.
But the real sport you need to look up is paddle, Padel. It's big in, like, smaller countries like Latin America and all that. It's kind of tennis, pickleball, and racquetball at the same time. It's like there's a net. It's like a carpet floor, and then the back half of the court is like plexiglass where the ball bounces off, and there's a fence by the side. And so you kind of play pickleball, kind of play tennis. It's full open. It's a bunch of smashing and running and playing off the walls, and so that's the sport that's fun. I got into that recently, and it's a blast.
All right, true or false? You sometimes are rooting for us to punt or kick field goals.
False.
So even if
No.
you're like, hey, we could probably get this one, but I'd rather get on the field. I haven't played enough today. Like, let's kick this one away. Absolutely
false. Now for punts, false. Field goals, I'm obviously rooting for us. Like 4th and 7 on the 20-yard line against Pitt in 2019, we need to kick the field goal. But always rooting for not to punt. But then depends on situation for field goal.
All right, you said you wanted riddles. I got riddles for you.
Let's do it.
What has to be broken before you can use it?
Silence. An egg.
An egg. Good. Yeah.
No.
That is the one. I am tall when I'm young,
Kendall.
and I'm short when I'm old. What am I?
Kendall.
Yeah, you've already seen all these.
I like how Mike's going to try to break Alex.
You think you're smart, right? Spell it.
Do what?
You think you're smart?
Yeah.
Spell it.
IT.
There you go. That's the one my kids always use on me. I know that one.
You fall for it every time.
All right, you got them all. I don't know.
All right, Alex, we saw you prominently featured on the ESPN show Our Time. You had a whole episode dedicated to you where you were charting the snaps. I don't know if you watched the entire series. How realistic was Our Time versus what actually goes on the football team?
The stuff you saw off field was very realistic. I wasn't too pleased with Our Time in the fact that they showed more of the game than they did behind the scenes. So, I mean, if people want to watch the game, they can go watch the game, or they can, look up highlights. Those are everywhere. But, especially like in my specialist episode, the specialist special, we gave them like 4 hours of content, and they used like less than 8 minutes of it. And the only part they showed that was like our personalities were like at practice. The only parts they showed us at practice was Dylan Gabriel coming up to us and messing with us and saying, "Oh, don't believe the hype. These guys actually practice at practice. Like whatever they say is not true. They actually practice at practice." And he ran off. And that's the only part they used of us at practice. Meanwhile, we had a guy mic'd up 4 days straight at practice, and we're, we had a whole bonfire. We had them in the lounge with us playing ping pong and all that type of stuff. Like they just didn't use any of the stuff we gave them and what would have made good television. And then they spent, because that was also the space game, they spent a couple minutes talking about the space game stuff, which I understand, but then they spent like 20 minutes on the game and 10 minutes on everything else. It's like people watched the game, guy. Like, so
was that a Dylan Gabriel impression, or is that just your annoying guy voice whenever you want to mimic somebody who's annoying you?
No, you can go back and watch the film. I'm pretty sure that's spot on. Like he does his little hand like
this. You mentioned going to your friend's wedding earlier. When you go to weddings, are you a big dancer guy? Or are you getting in and doing all the electric slide and all that stuff?
I have actually not been to a wedding. So my best friend had a wedding. I was the best man, and he scheduled it for the ECU game. So I could not go.
Have you all ever met before? Did he not know you might be busy that day?
Well, it was this year, and so his wife was pissed, and because they had both thought that I'd be done playing football, and she wanted a fall wedding, so they pushed it back a whole year just to wait on me. And I was like, I plan to be playing football anyways, Ian. Like, I'm either playing at UCF or I'm playing somewhere else. I plan to be playing football in the fall. And he's like, nope, she would not settle on not a fall wedding. So like, all right, man, I can't be there. And so he picked me over both of his brothers as his best man. And I feel so bad. When they said it, both of his brothers are in the military. For the date they said it, none of us could be there. So one of his brothers was in Germany, one of his brothers was in Yemen, and I was playing football. And it was just like, dude, I'm sorry. Like,
his wife was happy we lost that ECU game, right?
I don't even know if she follows it. She probably.
I mean, you could have had it in Greenville, Alex. I hear it's lovely that time of year. I mean, problem solved.
Yeah, the one hotel in Greenville.
Yeah, absolutely. The Hampton Inn right there. It would have been a beautiful ceremony. I don't know.
Exactly.
Missed opportunity. Obviously, you were around for a little bit of the end of NIL. If you could craft your perfect NIL deal, you could sign an NIL deal with anybody, any company. What would Alex Ward have wanted to sign a deal with?
Corvettes.
Okay, fair enough. That's a good one. That is a good one.
I mean, if we're being honest.
Yeah, it's a good one. No.
I don't know. Honestly, I was never one for, even materialistic things. I didn't care for the NIL whole platform. So I'm good just playing ball and being me.
All right. You see the clock up there on the top of the screen where it's counting the time, right?
Yep.
When it hits 30, give me all the superheroes you can name. Ready? I'll give you 20 seconds. Go.
Okay. Oh, before it hits 30?
Okay, start it now. That's 30.
I thought for some reason we were waiting 20
I'll give you 20 seconds. I'll give you 20 seconds on your first answer. 20 seconds on your first answer. Go.
Superman, Batman, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, Catwoman, starting DC because I know Marvel better. Maybe the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fit in there. Daredevil, and then we got Iron Man, Thor.
Time's up.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm giving you the Ninja Turtles. You have to name them individually to get credit for that one. So I'll give you 8.
Individually, we got Leonardo, Donatello, Michelangelo.
Oh, come on.
Raphael.
There
Raphael.
you
there
go.
you go.
Nice. Is there some sort of leaderboard, Mike? How am I supposed to? Have we done this before?
I think
and
we
I
need
don't
one
remember.
other person, and I don't know if I'm going to count Catwoman either. She's not
Oh,
really a
geez, here we
superhero;
go.
she's actually a villain. So I'm going to take that one away.
The judges are harsh.
All right.
We got them.
Alex, we're on video, so we can see you now. We'll put this video on YouTube. You've got a meticulous looking calendar situation behind you there. Can you read me something on that calendar? What do we got going on tomorrow? What's on the calendar here?
All right. So January, February, March, April.
Okay.
So here, this is Hula Bowl practices, training in Bradenton. Senior Bowl started here. Senior Bowl goes to up here. Then we got these are like local like UCF sports games, so I don't get out of the loop and miss any. Here's where I had some guys in town to train. Traveled with the combine this day. Combine, you might be able to read that. Then had a week training in Texas for these 4 days, and we are right here today. And then next Wednesday is pro day. And then down here is the Bucks local day. I'm going to Tampa, John Powell's wedding, friend's birthday, my sister's birthday, and then draft starts April 27th. Or my sister's wedding. The draft starts April 27th, and this is draft day all over the bottom of my car.
Wow. I don't see the Sons of UCF podcast on that calendar, but that's fine. I'll let that one slide, Alex.
Well, you got a couple weddings coming up. I guess you get some dancing in. So.
Correct. John Powell, the greatest special teams player ever. I don't know if y'all heard that story. That's hilarious. Yeah, my sister's is the day after my birthday, so it'll be fun.
All right. I know you're not going to tell us which team you want to play for in the NFL, but do you have a favorite team growing up as a kid?
Not really. Where I grew up in the Panhandle, teams are obviously like big geographical things, and we had 4 teams that were like all equidistant from each other. But a lot of people were just college fans. So the Saints are right there in New Orleans. Atlanta's decently close, 6-hour drive. Saints are the closest. And the Jags are a 4-hour drive, and the Bucks are a 6-hour drive from my hometown. So if I had to pick one, I'd say the Saints. I jumped on the Steelers bandwagon for a minute there, but then stepped off. I didn't care much for Pittsburgh. And then, yeah, so I'd have to say Saints. If I rooted for somebody kind of throughout my whole career, it'd be the Saints. It was like the way they play.
All right, Alex, my last one for you, my favorite question to ask all you guys. Obviously, a lot of your teammates with the NIL stuff came out with their own merch lines, right? So everybody had T-shirts. Some people had some socks. I'm not going to say anything about that. What was the worst-looking merch item you saw one of your teammates try to produce? Who had the shirt or maybe the socks that you were just like, man, that is the ugliest thing I've ever seen. No one's buying that. Oh, boy. Hold on. Show and tell. I love this. All right, let's show. We already got the calendar.
Now,
give us the finger, not the bad one. Okay.
Now I love it, but it is ugly.
Okay. Colton Boomer shirt. Wow, Colton Boomer shirt. Okay. All right.
It's a good. I wear it all the time. I love it.
Okay.
But man, that's ugly.
That is ugly. Okay. All right. He's got socks out too. Did you get a pair of socks?
He gave me a bunch of socks actually. When he got that deal with whatever it was, sock deal, he got like a bunch of Star Wars themed socks. And so he gave Star Wars themed socks to people that represented those characters. And so awesome. I forget what other people were, but I was Yoda. I was like the grandfather or whatever. And so I got 3 pair of Yoda socks from him.
True or false? Colton Boomer has the best UCF sock apparel deal of all time.
I mean, it has to be true because I think it's the only one.
Yeah, there was one other guy.
Who's the other one?
I believe Dylan Gabriel had some socks.
Oh, yeah. Boomer.
Boomer it is. Alex, you are a good citizen, a good football player, and just a great representative for Night Nation. Really thankful that you took all the time out of your schedule tonight and on that calendar, because it looks pretty busy, to join us on the show. We definitely appreciate you. I know everyone's wishing you the best as you progress on this NFL draft thing. I know a ton of people will be watching to see where you land up, and I'm sure you'll get a couple of people buying some jerseys, man. So big thanks to you for everything you did for UCF, man. We can't wait to see what's next for you.
Absolutely. Thank you all.